But does that mean that agriculture then reduces in its productivity? And this graph, if you look at the solid line, the black line with the dots, shows the amount of water actually extracted for agriculture is significantly going down and it's being transferred to the urban areas. But the other line, with the square points on it, shows that the agricultural productivity has actually been maintained and slightly increased over that period. So there are methods for these sorts of improvements. But you need the right enabling environment to be able to achieve those. India has also set, like Sri Lanka, has set targets for increasing water use productivity by about 20%. Sri Lanka wants to reduce its abstractions of water for agriculture from something in the order of around 85% now down to about 60%. But it can only be done if the right policy and environment is in place, the right political will, the economic incentives are there. And so I think this is where the dialogue and the discourse has to happen to make those sorts of targets, which are in the President's plan, actually realistic. As an organisation, IMI is now setting up a new strategy for its assistance to Sri Lanka. This year we're focusing very much on some of those groundwater issues and looking at also developing a predictive capability to see what the implications of different groundwater plans would be in the areas. We're looking at setting up a data portal to make information more available to help raise awareness about some of these issues. And we're also working in Western Province and also with the Ministry of Water Supply and Drainage on some of these issues around turning the wastewater and waste issues into a solution. Also that one day we can say, well, we will not have a day without water, there will always be days with water. Thank you very much indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not actually, when we talk about the water, it is not the time to sleep. Even in the midnight, if someone is talking about water, we have to forget about the rest and sleep, and we have to get up and listen what these people are talking about water. So today's title, of course, very relevant, but ladies and gentlemen, no substitute to the water. We can talk hours, days, weeks, even months about the nature or the behavior of this water. But Honorable Chairperson will give me on 20 minutes, so it's not time to talk much. If we just talk about the capillary action of the water, we drink a lot. We eat a lot. Whatever goes up to the end of the body as well. Are there any pumps? So I'm an engineer. I don't find any pumps. Unless otherwise this behavior, capillary action of water is not there. I don't think. Similarly, if you all think about the plants, from where the plant gets water? From the roots. But finally, evaporate from leaves. Again, that may be the capillary action. So, that is water. So no substitute. Without water, no life. So, in our country and in the world, everywhere, we are doing a lot of researches. There are so many information about water, and that's what we have to do. More than that, I observe there is a gap, communication gap. These messages should be passed down to the people in the country. So whatever the articles, whatever the sort of presentation should also be presented to the public in a digestible manner. Ladies and gentlemen, awareness is important, very important. So during this given time, very short time, I would like to just talk about the threat to water resources and of course some sort of adaptation. Just by taking one example about the wetland, how it could be developed for the adaptation of water resources life. So my presentation for the experts in water sector might be boring sometimes, because as I mentioned before, I have tried my best to make it digestible to the general public as well. Even this presentation was not particularly prepared for this particular forum, because I am not the one who was supposed to be here today. That was also one gentleman who has a greater concern about water, that is Dr. Poda Agoda, working director of Water Resources Board. Yesterday night around 9, only he called me and said that he has an appointment and invited me to come and make a presentation. But anywhere, when somebody is asking me to come to talk about water, I am ready to go. I forget everything. So, what are the threats to the water resources? I would like to talk about mainly two things. One thing is global climate change. Again, nothing other than our activities. So, there are certain things listed here: increase in temperature, changes in rainfall intensity, and also El Niño occurrences, increase in sea level rise. So when we talk about sea level rise, sometimes the people even who are sleeping used to get up and say, oh my God, whether sea is rising, because this is an island. Yes, it is being rise. According to calculations, it's very less. I mean, it's not the time to talk about the statistics, because the chairperson will ask you to stop talking. When we talk about climate change, the vulnerability here, of course, considerable. Sorry, the languages here, Sri Lanka, Sinhala and Tamil. Actually, this says about the same list that has been listed out in my previous slide. Some pictures in the background, of course, shows droughts and floods. These are also pictures appeared in our public papers. I do not say that this is because of global climate change, but of course, ladies and gentlemen, we have to accept that extreme events are taken place because of these global climate changes. See, I use these sort of pictures to say to the public that these may be the consequences. These are also some pictures copied time to time. Actually, what it says is that everything depends on water. Everything is everything, even every action of the people, road construction, building construction, whatever, you just imagine whatever an action by people, it will affect water. Similarly, water is there in most of the needs of human beings. Of course, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Pennsylvania also mentioned about this, the water cycle. The water behaves in a cycle. It may be billion of years. So used to say 326 millions of cubic miles of water available on in and around the earth. It behaves in the form of water cycle. Ladies and gentlemen, out of that, almost 97% of that exists as salt water or the water in the ocean. Now, I am talking about threat here. So, global climate change, of course, causes increase in temperature. If we just enter into the website, if you just type ice melting, you can just see the statistics also. I have not copied them here. So how it been melted, how increasing it been melted. So that indicates that even that 97% of that water availability is being increased. That is salt water or the water in the ocean. That means available fresh water for the use of human being is being decreased. That is, we understand as a threat. This is the other thing. The sources of water pollution. Solid waste everywhere is a big threat to water and other things as well listed here. We heard during one of the presentations also, of course the groundwater source in our country is, of course, I mean, we have not used it. We can say that we have not used it. But we have to be careful. This picture, of course, the red part is, I think you all can see, that is ocean or the sea. Because of the salt water density is high, the water in the ground, saturated in the ground, of course, more towards the land. Fresh water, the weight is less than the salt water, so we can realize there is an interface like pink color one. So if we start drilling wells in coastal area and pumping more water, extraction of more water, what will happen? The salt water intrusion will be further invited. So these are also industrial waste. Some pictures. Those who have the interest about the environment, mainly in Colombo, would have visited this place. A garbage dump. So just imagining a stream close by. Not only the streams, but also groundwater is being polluted. This matter, of course, this picture I copied from one of the presentations by Professor Makhdoom Muqaddar, while he was talking to us. Actually, we have to think of managing this water diverted for irrigation, domestic water supply and industry. That is to minimize pollution or prevent pollution and wastages. So this picture says, of course, the climate change you can't, of course, change. Whatever the change due to climate change, you can't go back. But adaptation is a solution. This slide says about the way that we have to follow. What I wanted to convey here is that these we have to convey to the public of the country. So this doesn't have any sort of statics, even the technical things. But if we emphasize about the threat to the water resources, and if we tell them that these are the ways to protect water resource, then of course we are moving towards water. Sorry. Then of course we are moving toward a society with the attitudes for water management, because finally we have to ensure that these are being practiced. Of course, this is one rainwater harvesting tank, not in Colombo, but in North Central Province area, Puttalam area. So now rainwater harvesting in Colombo, of course, very much possible, but it is not the time to talk much about it. Ladies and gentlemen, actually I wanted to talk about the wetland concept and this is a wetland, and this contributes a lot to the society for water treatment, and of course for the it protects environment as well. This is also one of the wetland. Even though you can't see water here. This is also same. Now it is almost dry, but during rainy season, it will of course be a storage for water. Here also a wetland. It protects, actually wetland protection. If we protect the wetland, it ensures that the whole system, including land, air and water resources, is protected. But ladies and gentlemen, see the habit of our society. Very close by this picture you can see garbages just dropped at this wetland. So we have to change these attitudes. We have to teach people, and we have to communicate that we have to protect them. So this is what I wanted to communicate. So as experts in water sector should be aware of the constructed wetland. This is only just one example taken from the nature. That is the wetland system has been copied by the engineers. This is a constructed wetland. Now it is being used for water treatment. Just see the application of it. This is not just a pond. Again this one. So we can see some of these things in and around our country also. But most of them are not constructed wetlands. The water into this sort of things in many areas again is from the water supply and drainage board supply water. But these pictures are not there. So we can apply what constructed wetland concept to have this sort of gardening. This is also a constructed wetland. So my concern is, ladies and gentlemen, we have to convert the findings into this sort of solution. And there should be a mechanism to apply these things so that the water is being protected. This is about the wastewater, solid waste. Of course, the time available for me is now almost over, so I am not going to talk about this solid waste. But if I just mention about the Pinisaru project. So this picture, of course, I designed this particular solid waste yard. Now it has been constructed in Anuradhapura. So, I mean, it's very much useful. The great King Parakrambahu in 12th century, of course the Vice Chancellor also mentioned about. He has, we have a lot to learn from him. So what I have to say is that Let me mention about one research that we are trying to do. That is, we have selected 5 tanks close to Retigalam, and we are trying to show that tank culture is a good solution for the adaptation of climate change as well. So in that area the paddy fields are there, and all sort of pollutions and all sort of things are there. Even water scarcity is there during a certain period of the country. So that type of thing we'll have to do in liaison with the community. Ladies and gentlemen, I took this 20 minutes just to convey the message that yes, we are doing a lot to reserve water and for the future generations, but also simultaneously there should be a mechanism to communicate these to the general public. We can't wait till a certain time. We are doing, fighting, and at a certain stage we will communicate them to the country. No, we have to start then and there. Of course, there are many ways, in the country as well. Water Supply and Drainage Board, Water Resources Board, they are doing. That's not sufficient. So we'll have to, talk to the people, communicate to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, what I was talking is about an integrated water management system. So we have to get the community participation. Awareness is the principle. So all these things we have to bring to the society and implement it so that work in harmony and protect water resources for future generations. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Banda. I would like to call upon our next speaker. That's Ms. Arunasena Nityananchi, Chairman, National Water Supply and Drainage Board. He will speak on the subject of the status of drinking water, supply and sanitation in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Executive Director of the Institute and resource persons at the on stage, and ladies and gentlemen. Let me say at the outset of this presentation, I'm not in a good mood today because of several meetings followed by certain trade union action, and I had to be in Parliament. That's why I got late to come here. So it's to change from Pasaramunda to here. The time distance is not enough for me to come to the right mindset. However, by looking at your faces, I think I can get myself oriented to make this presentation. That's also the theme of this particular seminar is a day without water. So we were just heading for a day without water because of external factors, not due to other reasons such as climate change or any other things, because this is the trade unions that I am working with. I'm not criticizing them, the trade unions are supposed to be there. I'm blessed with 37 trade unions of different categories. So every day I give one hour per day, so I need about 37 hours per month to address the issues of trade unions as part of the game. And I think I'll just give you a couple of examples before I get into the subject matter. This is a kind of a water saving trick or a tip for you all. 1 drop of water, the measurement I think you know it's about 1 milliliter. 1 drop is 1 milliliter. If you hear in your bathroom or in your sink the water is leaking, per minute it drops about 60 milliliters. It's tick, 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 tick like that. So in a day, in 1 hour, it leaks out about 3,600 milliliters. That is 3.6 liters. In a day, it's about 86.4 liters. In a month, it's about 2,592 liters. So that means 2.6 meter cubes. To produce 1 meter cube, what about spending around towards is about 45 rupees, 43 rupees. And you guys are paying, depending on your consumption, around 5-25 rupees up to about 30-40 rupees, and industrialists pay about 65 rupees per meter cube. So I think that gives you an indication if a small drop of water coming out of your water system is going to cost you a lot and is going to cost the nation a lot. So therefore, I think you need to consider these important factors in your day-to-day management of your system within your premises or in your houses. Yeah, Sri Lanka is having a population of about 2.4, which I don't want to go into details, and we have, I think, the Indian development is around 103 river basins, and all these details are there. The average rainfall comes to about 1,000 to 3,500 milliliters per annum. And surface water is used for irrigation, power generation, domestic purposes, and industrial and recreation. And also, we have groundwater, as my colleague previously explained you about groundwater and pollution of that. And we have harvesting or harvested rainwater is available for drinking purposes. Water for drinking purposes obtained from river streams, impounded reservoirs, deep and shallow groundwater, and natural spring and harvested rainwater. By year 2012, 43.5% of the population was served with pipe-borne water by the government. When I say government, it is only 37% is done by the water board, others are community-based, and various other NGOs, INGOs kind of water supply schemes. And these things are quite self-explanatory. I didn't want to waste my time on that. And our target in by year 2020, in parallel with the Millennium Development Goals to provide safe drinking water and adequate sanitation for all entire population of this country. We are in the right track, and I suppose that we can achieve these targets without much difficulty, subject to the investment that we are planning for. So this is what I said, 43% pipe-borne water, and domestic duct wells 37, and hand pumps and tube wells 3%, and harvested rainwater, very small quantity, and rainwater ladies over there. And I think we need to increase this one, particularly in the rural areas, particularly the dry zone. So, as I said earlier, I think when you are preparing this, you must put these 37 trade unions also into the context of water board. That's a very deciding factor in achieving my objectives. Water supply systems, we have 323 in the country and staff of 9,600, huge organization. And we are planning to reach 60% coverage by year 20 pipe-borne water. Not safe. Two things you have to keep in mind. Pipe-borne water is something, and safe drinking water, as I said, other sources people can get their water. And also I'm not very happy with this 37% also. I have a very short spell in water board, still I'm contesting this 37, because this 37 protected wells, who reports to us is the local level administrative officer, the Grama Sevaka, or statistics department people who collect this data. So this needs to be verified. That's a huge question mark, that whether these protected wells are safe water. That I am saying in public. because I am not very comfortable with this figure. To achieve this 60% coverage, we need to invest at least 50 billion rupees per annum in next 7 years. That's a huge investment. But I think we are happy to say that we have prepared plans, we have prepared all cost estimate and everything, and we are negotiating with various donors and bilaterals to find this money. This is the total connections I think we have reached now. By now it's about 1.6 billion, though it is 1.446 by end of last year. Sewage, I think the coverage is very poor, 2.3%, which need to be increased to 7% by the year 2020, which we have already implemented several plans, and these are the list of projects that need to be implemented during the next 7 years. And I think the sewage is a more expensive affair as compared to water supply, because the lines runs quite deep and it needs a lot of treatments, and this goes to the sea after treatment through various technical means like dilution or fully treated discharges. Indispensable for life, I think not necessary to talk much about it. And water security is one of the important things that I consider with respect to Singapore context. Singapore water security is their public security. Now they are depending on Malaysia. They have changed their approach and made entire Singapore is a catchment to capture all the rainwater, and they treat it, mix it with good water, as well as they do some reverse osmosis, that's converting saline water into potable water. So I think water security is very important. We also faced this situation about 2-3 months back when we had a severe drought. The saline front approached more than 18 kilometers along Kalari River, and we couldn't pump water because the electrical conductivity of that water was high and it's not good for human consumption. And I was having some discussion with the top government officials as well as the political leadership that probably we need to get the assistance of barge-mounted desalination plants to provide drinking water for the city of Colombo. So this is very important. If you cannot supply water for drinking purposes and cooking purposes, definitely we have a problem with respect to the security of the country. Social cost, the chronic renal disease failure in north central, northwestern and eastern provinces, dental fluorosis, and these are some of the problems that we have faced. At this stage, let me ask you, if you had a day without water at your houses, with no storage within the premises, what chaos it would create? All your activities will go for 6 and you may not be able to work according to your targets, and all your activities will come to a standstill. So water is very important for our life. Yeah, there are several things, due to climate change or any other weather conditions, extreme weather conditions, we may need to have some kind of water, constraint or the control to supply water in certain area. And what we do is we inform the public in advance through media that there will be a water cut or an interruption. And there can be some unforeseen situation, there are some pipes. That's another news for you all perhaps. We got pipe-borne water in Colombo before Tokyo. Our pipe-borne system started in 1875, correct George? 1875, so many years, more than 125 years, we celebrated that recently. So still, but those pipes that we have laid in 1870, 75, still some pipes are there. Because of that reason, our system sometimes subject to various kind of pipe bursts, and there will be uncertainty. But we are replacing all that with a lot of investment from ADB and other donor countries. Recently, transmission from Ambadali to Devela dropped down, and chaos in Devela Mount area. But anyway, this is a picture. that how our people will have to. This is of course Amratali one. I went at night and there was a computer shop by the side and all, but as a burst and everything was damaged, and this took about more than 18 hours to repair it. So these are unavoidable. I think we have many long-term plans for water supply and sewerage in large cities. Of course, many large cities are covered by now, but we need further improvements around the suburban areas of such areas. Requirement for small towns, which are added, and both the local and foreign funded projects are being implemented. And the rural systems. Also, I would like to mention that the community-based organizations are also extensively involved in providing drinking water to their communities. I think they are also investing rather than the people living in cities. They don't invest anything, but I think they are taxpayers. Definitely they are investing indirectly. But these people in the rural areas, they put about 25 to 30% of the capital cost in kind and cash, and implement their projects with the assistance of the government. I think groundwater, I'm not going to talk much about the hardness and saline water and also the excessive iron fluoride and these ferrous and all these create a lot of health problems. But one thing I would like to mention here, we had some problems in Anuradhapura area. In Anuradhapura, some of the areas were badly affected with CKD, chronic kidney disease. They also say CKDU, unknown origin. So because no one has established whether this is due to this reason or other reasons. But I think we started providing water to some of the kidney affected areas. We found the situation of the patients improved and also occurrence of kidney failures reduced. So therefore, I can say one of the important factors in the whole scenario is to provide good drinking water. Therefore, we are implementing about 3-4 projects in Anuradhapura district to provide drinking water to those people. I think I'll just go through maybe. We have one problem in water supply in Kalani River. I just want to highlight this one. Water extracted into our main water treatment plant from Kalani River was being contaminated by burnt oil discharged by an industrialist in particular. This industrialist is a government organization. I don't want to mention the name of the government organization. You can guess it, right? And we need to find some solutions, and also we have been negotiating with them how best we could solve this problem. Yeah, water safety. In order to ensure water security, we prepare water safety plans for every water supply scheme. These water safety plans are prepared to cover the whole system from the source up to the point where the customer receives the supply. I would like to also mention that in our website every day we upload about 60 test results for the public to see. So I think we can see some places there are some failures. Immediately we take action to remedy the situation because water is very important from the point of view of health. If you have any comments on, you can even put your message into the website so that our chemists and other system managers can see those things and respond. Water resources are studied for climate changes and yield variation, catchment protection, and catchment protection is a big problem in Sri Lanka because catchment belongs to several other government and private organizations. So it's very difficult to have a catchment protection program unless the government has some kind of a river basin management. And this is something lacking in Sri Lanka. We can learn quite a lot of things from other countries, particularly maybe from Maridali, but I don't know, some people will agree with me. Australia, they do have this Maridali Management Authority. So likewise, we need to have some concerted effort from all the parties concerned to protect our catchment. We also do the groundwater recharge and reduce the chances of borehole running dry and nuclear flushing and all that being done. So it is to provide water to all the people. In conclusion, let me say that Tamil Nadu Sri Lanka is striving steadfastly to provide its people with safe water supply and adequate sanitation facilities. It has set targets and is committed to achieve them strategically. In this context, we are thankful to the donors and financiers who have pledged support to implement water supply and sewerage projects in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
We would like to open the floor for some questions and ideas. Before we do that, we have to excuse Mr. Vasal Bandara, so we have to go to an urgent meeting. Jeremy spoke about the water security and Professor Atula about the water resource as a geological perspective, and also diseases is there, and also the water. Aruna Sen, who spoke about the water supply of Sri Lanka and the importance of it. So, floor is open for your ideas. If you can quickly identify yourself and just make the questions very short so that we will have more questions. Thank you. Michael.
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. My name is François Jacob. I'm the director for UNOS. I have two separate questions. Mostly, maybe the first one for Professor Atula and Mr. Hethiarachi, and then the second one for the chairman. First question is, what is the possible technical strategy for the very dry areas, the coastal area in the northeast and the north and a little bit of the northwest, where we know that the groundwater is becoming saline, where there is no major urban concentration outside Jaffna, but the places like Mulatipu are not fully urbanized, but the population is growing, and the tank system is not so elaborated there. So what do you see as the best technical solution, at least for the next few years in these regions? My second question is more related to your final few slides, Chairman. You're talking about a huge investment, 50 billion rupees per year for the next 10 years. And certainly, I mean, I don't think there are many donors in the room here, but this is a big request to donors. So I believe that a lot of work also can be done through cost recovery, which is a very sensitive issue because it involves increasing tariffs or changing the tariff structure. What is, without putting you on the hard spot, what is the thinking on this particular point? Thank you very much.
Thank you. To take one by one, or take a couple of them?
Ma'am, your question, first question. Now, the dry areas in the country, especially the coastal areas, have a big problem. We have the salinity encroachment is a big problem. So we need to have a proper exploration plan for this area, because for 30 years this area has been neglected and there has been no exploratory work done in that area, because we didn't have access for the professionals from the water industry as well as from the universities. But now the area is being considered for exploration work. My colleague Dr. Tarkamudwardana, he is the hydrogeologist of the university, the only person there. So he will talk about that, and I think he will give you an answer, a proper answer, later on during his talk.
Okay, I think two questions. Number one is about the degradation of the groundwater. It's a good question. And an answer is very difficult to answer, but however, mostly I believe and I encourage to go for surface water, right? And also sometimes some people think that the way that our population is dispersed in those areas, our kind of development, river development all along the roads. You have, if you go 1 kilometer, you don't have 5 customers sometimes. The plots are bigger. We don't have concentrated settlements in Sri Lanka. So therefore, it is very difficult, not even for water supply, but the other service providers to provide services. So the farmers in recent development like Mahaveli, you can see some concentrated, population. So therefore, providing services to such settlement is easier. But haphazard development in rural areas creates a lot of problems for all the people. So you may not be able to provide drinking water through pipes, right? So that is why we use the strategy to have a couple of other strategies like supplying water by powder for drinking purposes and cooking purposes. So other purposes they have the tube beds or the river or the lake, right? So that's a different way that in the short and medium term you have to go by that. But if we are rich enough, we can cover those areas and there will be some urban migration and concentration, then there will be demand for such facilities in those areas. So that is how we go. And also other solution that we are planning in the very, very short term is to provide big drinking water bottles like you have in Colombo. This could be provided in our treatment plant so that we can, through a network of cooperatives and community-based organizations, we could distribute these bottles for drinking and cooking purposes. So these are the medium-term and short-term purposes. But in case of the area that you mentioned, we have a quite number of projects lined up to cover most of these villages. So there will be some center, but we cannot cover 100% each and every house and each and every village. But to a great extent, yeah. And the other thing, you may use rainwater harvesting to some extent. Groundwater, I think I request the groundwater specialists to do a good research on it. After several years or 5 years or 6 years or 10 years, depending on time frame, I don't know. I'm not expert on geology or the hydrogeology. The groundwater deteriorates and you cannot use it. And there are a lot of problems with the concentration of various other chemicals and not suitable for human consumption. Maybe for 5-6 years it's a solution. But after that, almost all our tube wells are failing. Now we are doing flushing and doing various things to provide water. So that's the answer for that. And the second question about your cost recovery. I think you know the news these days about electricity problem, right? A lot of politics and discussions both in government and opposition you can hear in the media. And we also did a little bit of raising our tariff recently. But we do some cost recovery. But don't expect us to recover the full cost from through water board. Our cost recovery in the health sector. So then you have to calculate how much money you spend on dialysis, right? Kidney failures and dialysis and kidney patients, sometimes 40,000 rupees per day per patient, right? So we can bring down the health cost from cancer. So we cannot make such financial analysis for water projects for the cost recovery. But however, when we give a connection to a customer, we have capital cost recovery and there is another cost recovery component, 2 components can be tried. But we may not be able to fully recover. What the government wants is to improve do the social development and provide these facilities to people to uplift their living conditions. So you must put everything in context and talk about cost recovery. And I would like to tell you, I'm very happy to tell you also, and this 50 billion is not a big problem for us now, right? So there are quite a lot of people every day knocking on my door and say, can we bring some money, can we bring some money? But we are very choosy. And we have to choose the right investors. And the multilaterals, definitely ADB, World Bank of course not much, very small amount that they are investing in water sector. And JICA, they do a lot. AFD, and they are doing. And also the countries like China, India, you name all the countries in the world, they are providing through their Exim banks. Some are commercial loans, some are concession loans. So at the moment we are around 37 billion invested in water on capital. Not on the recurrent cost, right? Capital cost alone. Taking between another 13 to raise. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Rohan Kamasina. For the purposes of this forum, I mentioned that some time back I was a full-time director on the Central Environment Authority, and the President of the country asked me to chair what is called the Permanent Interagency Committee for the Safety of Public Water Supplies. Some of the work that we did there, the principal work we did there, was examining 10 samples of public water supplies, mostly the Water Supply and Drainage Board, and giving it to an independent analyst for reports. And I'm glad to say that after a short time, in my experience as chairman, the water quality was excellent of the Water Supply and Drainage Board at that time, even in the middle of severe terrorist problems. One question arising from that is that if the water quality today is the same as it was then, is there any need to buy bottled water from the shop? Because that costs a lot of money and you're getting a lot of polythene garbage or plastic garbage thrown out of the place. That's one question. I've got a couple others. There's been talk here about rainwater harvesting. I was at a meeting in Delhi yesterday on rainwater harvesting, and they from Nepal said they've been doing that there and they had a mosquito problem. How can you be sure of getting rainwater harvesting done here in Colombo without increasing your mosquito problem which is already there? As you would, I think, know, in Behibala Mountain area, there's very high incidence, or there used to be very high incidence of filaria. Because the filaria and mosquitoes breed in septic tanks. When the septic tanks are damaged, the filaria incidence increases. That's that. Another one. In some countries I've been to, you get two separate water delivery systems. Now in Colombo, even during severe droughts, I have observed people washing their cars, watering their gardens and so on. Now in some countries there are two separate, they're all very expensive to get that. In some countries there are two parallel lines, one with treated water going to the kitchen and nowhere else, and the rest untreated water going to your bathroom, lavatories, and so on and so forth. That's question number 3. Question number 4, Mr. Bird was mentioning in Jaffna, the water, the groundwater comes from the sea and not from the rain. Now, I am thinking back to the controversy about the Kula atomic power station that's coming up and which is going to be commissioned. We have been assured that authorities here are going to test seawater for radioactivity, so we've got nothing to worry about. Is that just to keep us quiet? Because my personal feeling is not the water, radioactivity in the water that should cause us the concern. I hope it doesn't happen. If it happens, it will only affect a small area, maybe around Jaffna. I think a much greater concern is the radioactivity getting into fish by stages. A bioconcentration of radioisotopes in the fish, and that can be far higher and can affect the entire population, whole of the country, the fish consuming people all over the country. After the problem in Japan, we sent nuclear power plants, they've been catching fish there with radioactivity which is 2,500 times the legal limits for radioactivity in fish, seafood. Thank you very much. The 4 questions.
I think I have only a question, but however, we have to wait on 2 questions, right?
Yeah, I think I happened to be the chairman CEO also before. This is my 5th chairmanship. I am a record breaker in holding chairmanship in the country. So CA also I had some about 2 years as a chairman. I also just one of the important question was the good question you raised about the bottled water, right? I'm discouraging people to use bottled water to drink because I'm thirsty. I use bottled water, otherwise I go and drink from the tap. You know what happened is because our water WHO standard, so you can drink. The only problem that you guys are doing is put this water into your overhead tank for the summer. There you can have contamination. So take a pipe straight from after the meter to your kitchen. Right? Use that water for drinking, nothing will happen. If something happens, go to the doctor, I don't know what to do. But I'm 200% sure that nothing will happen, right? So I think I used to drink, even if I go abroad, I used to drink water from the hotel, I inquire from them whether this water is potable and drinkable. Yes, they said yes. So you start drinking, no problem. But only thing is you have to be careful about the contamination in your sump and overhead. Right? This is another tip I am giving today, so you could use. And the second one you raised about the rainwater harvesting. It's I think the forum lady is there, but however I will just answer. There is no mosquito problem. Is that right, Tabitha? No problem with mosquitoes because you have a lid to cover, then you don't get the sunlight, there is no mosquito breeding. And also you mentioned about this filaria and the issue in that area, particularly now Moratua Ratmalan area will be swelled very soon. At the moment they are depending on the septic tanks. There can be some problems in the septic tank, leaks and all that. That's why you get this filaria mosquitoes. Also not on the septic tank but also in the drains. Drains are not fully flushed and clean. Have I answered any other question? Right. Very good, very question. I have seen this one in Australia, Melbourne water. You can see the grey water and the potable water in 2 lines. Our economy in present status, we cannot have it now. Maybe when we reach about $8,000 per capita income, definitely we can go for that at the moment. And also we are not short of water in Sri Lanka. In the time horizon, temporarily or spatially, you may have some shortage in certain areas. And that is why we need the transfer of water to the trial basins and to supply water. Right? And this grey water concept, what our ministry is now drafting a regulation for large buildings over 5,000 square feet need to have their own recycling plant. In Singapore you have new water and the industrial water and the potable water. They call it in Singapore new water also. But what I am saying is here we cannot have 2 systems. So we cannot afford to cover 100% population with one system. So therefore, we will be having this kind of regulation to reduce the demand. Demand management needs to be done, particularly in the water stress areas and very high consumption areas, which we are at it and we are doing.
Most of the studies that we've seen have been concentrated mostly on looking at the effects of saline intrusion into the groundwater and the contamination of groundwater from agricultural chemicals. And that's where the major risks that we've identified have been in the modelling that we've done. I think when you come down to the risks around specific activities like a radioactive plant, power plant, then I mean clearly there's potential risks there in terms of the water, in terms of the fish, but also the other aquatic products that are maybe bottom dwelling like crabs, prawns and other organisms. I mean, and the same risks were faced in many countries. In my own country, in the UK, for example, there was a major monitoring program around the Sellafield waste treatment plant in the northwest of the country, and very careful to control it. But at some point also there were producers which went above the EU standard. So I think in situations like that, it's imperative to have some sort of independent monitoring system.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask Chairman of the Board. There was an exhibition on 21st March in the World Water Day was 22nd. So the exhibition in the BMICS, and there was exhibit, can't remember the name of the company, of a treatment plant, the Spectra. Right. And the write-up in the Institute of Engineers paper on that said that the community-based organizations, CBOs, in the particular area that the state is equal to, were managed by girls, young women, and the cost was given as they were selling a liter 2 rupees, and their cost was 1 rupee 20 cents. So that over a period of, I think, Vemujavardhana said 2 years, they had recovered the cost of their project. Now, sir, may I ask you, you were referring to foreign aid and all countries are lined up to help us. What have you done to help those people?
I think this is our, this is our initiative, I suppose, because we started working with this. It's not working now. Yeah. Was to ask my senior colleague in the department, I must respect him and
Answer at the podium, right? We were in the same profession in irrigation engineering. So I think, sir, this is our initiative. We work with IFS and we supported this company to develop this project. And we have invested purchased more than 10 such units and installed in such villages, right? So that is how this came into being. It is not somebody else or some people. We are encouraging all initiatives, smaller, big or small, waterproof, protection, more, like selling, right? So we do all this work, so that we get the momentum of all the people. This young lady from Candy, they are doing some initiative with what people in the global water or something like that. So we work with all people, water harvesting, anything, So they are, that will help. We do bigger projects to sustain all that. Sometimes those things can fail. And still we continue with this work. I think during the, what you call this diametrical time, we purchase some and install, and we are continuing with that. When we have some surplus money, when there's a need, we do that, sir.
We're moving in for the second session. So we have some tokens of appreciation. So please avoid it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much to the session chairman and presenters for session 1. May I ask Mr. Asanta Bezasekara to make the small tokens of appreciation presented to each of our presenters, beginning with Professor Athula Senaratne. Very much. With that, we conclude session 2. The presenters for session 2, Dr. H.A. Dharmagunawardana, Senior Lecturer, Department of Geology.